Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world right now. And welcome to session INF106, installing Sametime 11.6 complete step by step. First of all, a word of thanks to all the sponsors that make this event possible. Then, who am I? My name is Roberto Boccadoro. I'm from Italy. I am a HCL business partner. I started working with the collaborative technologies when I joined Lotus in 1994 using Nodes 3 at the time. And from then on, I've seen lots of products that Lotus, then IBM, has built. So I worked with the 0.x internal version of both Sametime and Connection. So I have a little bit of experience with the Sametime. I am an HCL ambassador and an OpenNTF director. At the bottom of the slide, there are my email address and my blog, if you want to get in touch with me or are interested in what I post. What I will do in this session, a live demo of an installation of Sametime. And as my friend and the HCL ambassador wrangler, Tim Clark, always says, never perform live with animals, children, and software because they tend to misbehave. But I will reach the same this. So let's start, and let me see. I have if you can see, a virtual machine here with a Domino server installed. Right now there is a Domino 11 installed because Sametime 11.6 still needs Domino 11. It does not run on Domino 12. If you have listened to Ginny's presentation yesterday, this is going to change with the next release, but as of now, we need 11. So what are the steps that we need to do in order to install a full Sametime environment? We have to install MongoDB, which is the database that's used by Sametime to keep the persistent chat. We need to install the community server that, as it's been since forever, is an add-on to an existing Domino and manages the chat part. Then we need to install the proxy server, which is used by the web client and the mobile client. All of these can be on the same machine, which is this Windows machine that I am using. Then, separate, we need to have a Linux box. This is a CentOS server I have, where we will install the Sametime Meeting, because the Sametime Meeting is a container image. It runs either on Docker or on Kubernetes. By the way, I will only talk and show about Docker. If you're interested in more options and have questions specific to Kubernetes or the like, tomorrow there is a session, a long 2-hour session by Tony Payne, who is the Sametime wizard. He knows everything inside out. So I encourage you to attend that session if you want to know anything about Kubernetes. So let's start. I have my installation kit, community server, MongoDB, and Sametime, and we'll start with Mongo. Mongo is just next, very easy, accept the license agreement, complete, next. Do not install MongoDB Compass. It doesn't do any harm if you do. It's not needed. That's why it's a graphical UI to see what's inside the databases, but you never need it. So installing MongoDB will automatically create a service. So if you run the service and refresh it, you should see you have a MongoDB server, which is running. Now, the first thing we need to do is to configure Mongo for Sametime. So we open a command prompt, change to bin. This is the directory. And we run the Mongo console by just issuing the command Mongo. This is the console. Then we have to do some operation on the database in order to configure it for Sametime. So I'll just type some commands, and these are all detailed in the instructions. So we switch to DB admin, and then we create a user for the database. The default is Sametime user, password Sametime. Obviously, you can change it to a more secure password if you need it, but just leave with the default. And then it says successfully added user and default. Then we will need to create the chat logging database and create a couple of collections. One is called events. One is called sessions. Acknowledge, so it's fine. Now we need to close Mongo, so we type exit from the console and we simply stop the service. Now we have to edit the configuration file, which is in program files, Mongo server 44, the MongoD.cfg file. I'll edit, and we have to make a couple of changes that are these. Uncomment the replication and type space this is a bit tricky. People often get confused. It's not a tab, it's two spaces. You have to be careful about that because its indentation is very important, otherwise it will not work. And under network interfaces, other than bind IP localhost, we just type again, two spaces. We save the program file and start again Mongo. If you do something wrong and the config file is not correct, it will not start. So now we open again the Mongo console and initiate the replication like this. It should go to RS secondary, and if you just press enter, it will switch to primary. And this is for the installation of Mongo. It's very easy. So now we proceed with the installation. We can close it here. With the installation of the community server. This is the standard way it's always been done since ages. Go into the folder Sametime community server install. Okay. Next. Next. Accept the license agreement. This is the directory selection. To keep it simple, I will use the domino directory. So I will use the names and self of the server where I am installing Sametime, but you can select any LDAP directory if you want. Specify MongoDB, localhost, default port authentication none. And here you select the kind of license. I will not remain with standard. Otherwise, if you select limited, you're not entitled to use bidding. So it will basically define all the purpose of this presentation, and you install it. It's done. Now there is one thing that I suggest you to check. So if you go into the domino directory and look for the chatlogging.ini file, you see that the username and the password are blank. So if I were to start Domino server now, Sametime will start, but a couple of services will not. The chat logging and another one, which is, I think, the authorization. Anyway, two services will not start because there is no username and password here. So just type chat logging ini, save the file, close it, and we start the Domino server. Start Domino as a Windows service. Open the console, and we'll see that it will start the Sametime services. Sametime server running, and we can check it here. We have two services, Sametime server and Sametime service framework that are running. And now we have to wait for all these other services to start in order to have Sametime available. Depending on your machine, this is a poor virtual machine with not much hardware. It will take a few minutes, so bear with me. But we have to wait until this is running. If I open the Domino admin, you will see that it has changed this value. Is this a Sametime server or the server that I am actually using? And also has added the SD add-in task to the Node.ini. This is the boring part, we have to wait. It will show up and you see it running. You keep hitting the refresh button. Eventually, So now we have a Sametime server running. What we have to do now, the chat part for the Sametime client, either embedded or standalone, is done. So we have to install the Sametime proxy. So we have this zip file, and we extract to C, because it will create a directory Sametime proxy. Sametime proxy. Oh, sorry, I have created it under Sametime 11. Mistake. Move. So now we have a directory Sametime proxy. To install the proxy, it's easy. It's very easy. You just run install. And then follow the instruction. Now we accept the license. It's an installation or an upgrade. In our case, it's a fresh installation. You're about to install the Sametime proxy in this directory. Yes. Sametime host. Sametime host, in our case, is this one, the name of the server. So this one, IDP with the name Mongo. Since we're installing on a single machine, it's the same. Port. This password. Now the SSL part, it needs to use TLS, so it needs to create a certificate, and by default it will create a self-signed certificate. We accept it right now. Then there is a way to change the certificate in the key store if you want to use a certificate that you already have a proper certificate for your organization. All the configuration of the Sametime proxy is here, basically. If you click Sametime proxy conf, there are a few files. Here's the proxy config XML that contains the name and the port. Then there is the bconfig properties that says which is the Mongo database we're connecting to, and the server XML that contains other information, but I'll show you. Connector, and this is where you have to change eventually if you want to use a proper certificate, because as you see now it's using his own certificate that has created. So that's the file you have to change. By default, it uses the port 8443. So if everything is correct, we should just to connect. Right. Obviously. Yeah, we should start the proxy. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. And refresh immediately will not work because the proxy takes a few seconds to start. Now it started. The usual security risk because we have a self-signed certificate. We accept the risk and continue. And then we have our chat, web chat client. Okay. So basically, for the pure chat part, this is it. We have installed the standard community client. We installed the proxy server. Let me see if I can just do now I see I can find the person. Start the chat. So the chat is working fine now. I will not use the comment client. Believe me, if it works from the web, it's a good test. It means that the chat is working. So we have now set up a classic Sametime community server, which is the chat part. There are some options that you wanna do. For example, change from H443 to port 443. Again, you do it in server XML. And we find, for example, you have to change all the occurrences of 8443 to 443. Being this a single server install, there is no need to add the trusted IP, the IP of the community server to the Domino server, etc. So it's basically it's done. Now we have to install the meeting server. Meeting server, as I said, it's a Linux box, and it's I use CentOS, and it's a Docker or Kubernetes. Again, we will need Docker. Docker, I have installed the latest version. I think it's supported 19 1903, from 1903 onwards. Just look at the documentation, it's there. But anyway, even if you use the latest version, it works. Now I have a folder. I have already created a Sametime directory where I have downloaded from FlexNet the kit of the meeting server, which is a zip file. So you just do zip this one. Those files, and just like for the proxy, it's very complicated. The meeting server name, we call it meeting. Yeah. Sorry. So stop the game. Sorry for that. It's pretty easy, just delete. File. One. The proxy server is this one, so we need to grab the address 192.168.190. Proxy port is 8443. The Mongo host is exactly the same as the proxy. The port is the same. Now we create a JWT secret. This will be used later when we configure the meetings to work with the community server. It's loading all the images. It's pretty fast even on a small machine like this one. And now that's it. It's started and it's working. To stop and start the meeting server, the command is down. Oh, sorry, docker. Will shut down all the various images. The container running. Then let's say you have to do some changes, edit the configuration file, and when I restart it, this is Docker Compose, and it will start the various containers. So now we have everything running. So if we, for example, Docker PS, we see that we have lots of things running. And this is the Sametime meeting, but now we have to make community and meeting work together. So we go back to the Domino machine, and in Domino, we need to policy users XML file. this is where all the policies are defined, and we have to make sure that we have set IAM meeting enabled 1. By default is 0. So we have to change it to 1. I'll do it for the default penalty. Obviously, if you want, you need to do it also for the anonymous. Just make it. Save it. And the ugly part now is that we have to restart the server, so we need to shut down Domino. Server stop. While it's stopping, let's switch back to the meeting machine. And if you see, we have a .m file that contains lots of things about the configuration. And now we need to go find the value of the ports. You see, you can change and zone, meetings, everything. We need to go and fetch the JWT app secret. So we need to copy this value. Terminal. Type the following command. No. Pipe 64. This is what's called the generated secret, and it's a value that we need to use on the Sametime community server. So I'll switch back to the Sametime community server, which is now stopped. So open the Sametime INI file, and we have to do some changes. Under config, we need to add, we can put it anywhere, as long as it is in this section, config. JWT underscore secret equal this value. So hopefully text. Okay. And under st underscore bb underscore names, we switch the value st auth token nodes to st auth token work nodes. These are case sensitive, so capital J, capital F. Okay, and we save it, close it, and Then we have to do some operation also on the proxy server, which is Sametime proxy. We need to go into the conf, that's the proxy config XML. Now in the section configuration, we have to add something like this. Let me copy it. Meeting host port. So host is oh no, sorry. Port is 443 because by default the meeting server uses 443. Is secure and end meeting. Then we have to add this. Then we have to add few lines like this, where we keep the generated secret again is this value. Oops. Enable true meeting again, refresh JWT. So this is what it looks like, and we save it. Now we need to restart the proxy server and the Domino server. So HCL Domino server start. Sametime proxy server we stop. Restart. So we start the proxy server. Sametime services should be running. And now we have to wait for the Sametime. Now, in theory, by the way, the meeting is here, so we should be able to see. Meeting. Sorry, 1 second. Hello, new guest. No, everything looks fine. So we can see it's not working. That's not working. Obviously, the demo effect is that it's not working, but it's running. It's not working. Sorry, I must have made a mistake. So shut it down and restart. Anyway, apart from the fact that, as usual, Tim was right, never to live in software because chances are it's not going to work. But the server actually is up and running, and the same as is the. Sorry for that, I have made probably a mistake somewhere. Sametime is starting, and we can go again. So, I guess we are running out of time. Yeah, if you want to see why it's not working, collect logs of the Nginx. Starting service done. So there is nothing obvious here. It's in the bot, so well, I would need to debug. Sorry for that. Obviously, believe me, when I did a dry run of this, it was working, but I think that we're running out of time. So again, thanks to the sponsors of the session, and I'll leave it open if there are questions or comments in the chat. Oh, in the Tony is suggesting me. Custom and Sametime proxy from IP. Change it. If there are any questions or comments in the chat, I don't see open questions and I don't see anything. So
you do have a suggestion in the chat though about change proxy host name from IP.
that's what I did. That was Tom.
Right.
That was the Sametime wizard himself who is honoring me by attending my session, and I really mean it. That made the suggestion to do this change and let's see if it works. Something wrong. Yeah, right. I might have the firewall running. There could be various reasons why. Firewall up probably. So, yeah, it's let's see if it's working. Stop it. Probably what I should need to do is restart the machine. But I think that we are already over time, so it's I'm not gonna do it. Thanks everyone for attending, and if there are no other questions, I will switch back the control to our host. Thank you.